Hello, everyone, and welcome to Slash Film Daily for Friday, April 16th, 2021. On today's episode, we're going to have a spoiler discussion about The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, Episode 5, Truth. This is Slash Film Editor-in-Chief Peter Sciretta, and joining me on his podcast is Slash Film Weekend Editor Brad Oman.
Hey, that's me.
Jake can't be here this week. He's out on vacation. So this is going to be us two chatting about this episode. Before we get into this episode, as you know, every week on this podcast, we do it in a format of we go to reader feedback with your speculations, your theories, and then we go into our brief reactions, and then we break down the whole episode beat by beat, and then we go into speculation. So first, we're going to start things off with the reader feedback. If you want to send your own, what you think, well, I guess next week's the finale episode, so I'm not sure if we're gonna get to your questions, comments, concerns, speculation. But if you have anything to send us, send it to peter@slashfilm.com. That's peter@slashfilm.com. Okay, let's get into it. After last week, I think everybody's asking who is the power broker, and we got a couple emails with some crazy long shot theories here. Jim from Pasadena wrote in that he thinks the power broker could possibly be Emil Blonsky, as portrayed by Tim Roth. This is the character from the Edward Norton Hulk movie. He says, that they made you want to rewatch Dark World with Endgame, and they made you want to rewatch Age of Ultron with WandaVision. Now in the Ultimate, made you want to rewatch the totally canonical Norton Hulk movie. I mean, if it could be Thunderbolt Ross, then it could be Blonsky. What do you think, Brad? What's the chances that that Tim Roth is going to be the power broker?
Slim and none. I mean, sure, we know Abomination is coming back in She-Hulk, but I feel like the jump from his involvement in that series to being suddenly appearing in this one seems like quite a bit of a stretch.
Yeah. Well, the next one is another small character from an early Marvel movie. Brian from Washington State writes in with his best guess for the power broker, given all the clues they've dropped in the description of his capabilities. Brian says it could be Justin Hammer. He's already been known to deal in the black market. He has the resources and has exhibited past behaviors similar to the power broker. Maybe he was blipped and came back to no prison guards. So, Brad, what do you think the chances are? Justin Hammer. Who is that? That was Sam
Rockwell's character from Iron Man 2.
Yeah.
Again, I think chances are slim to none, but man, if there were ever a character who I would love to see make a comeback in this way, it would be Justin Hammer, because that would be cool as hell.
I do feel like at some point they're going to bring him back. It's ripe. I mean, I know Iron Man 2 is not a good movie, but that's what they're doing with a lot of these Marvel things. Like I do feel like WandaVision does, and some of the other stuff is trying to like elevate the lesser, the Age of Ultrons and stuff like that. And I do think that
I think it's
I
fun to bring back any comic character who's not
yeah.
dead and do something fun with them. I mean, that's the comics do that even with characters who are dead, and so if you leave a character alive and it's open ended for something new to happen with them, then more power to him.
Plus, he just had such a fun performance. It's always good to see Sam in anything. So
Yeah.
okay, that was all for the emails this week. Again, you can write me at peter@slashfilm.com. I can promise you we will read it. Can't promise you it will be read on the air, but there you go. Okay, brief thoughts on this episode. This episode is titled Truth. It is the first over 1 hour long episode, I think, on Disney Plus from their original series period. It's a solid episode. I I do want to say that it does seem like I'm getting the sense the fans feel that it was maybe overhyped a little bit. Like the showrunner Spellman, he was saying how people would cry this episode. He was saying how there's going to be this big appearance by this character from Marvel Universe, and I think people were when people hear that stuff, and especially comic book fans, I think it ends up they end up shooting way higher than where even the showrunner is actually trying to place the bar. So, yeah, there's a great surprise appearance in here from Julia Louis Dreyfus, and I'm curious what her role will mean for the series and the rest of the MCU. And I don't know, this thing, I just want to see. I just want to see the end of this. This is the first episode. I know some people have complained that this season of television feels like it is a movie uh, spread out over a season of television, and that hurts it. And I have not felt that personally. We had this great article from Josh on our site. I'll link it in the show notes, complaining about that. But I do feel like this episode does feel like it's it's leading up to the final act, and I don't feel like it was a full story, if that makes sense. Brad, what are your thoughts on this episode?
Yeah, I really enjoyed this episode for a variety of reasons, but this was the episode where I really felt like okay, so this is the part of the movie just before the end of the beginning of the third act, and it's while it does have the traits of like the penultimate episode of a TV season as well, it really did feel like something that belonged in a movie, and like you said, it doesn't quite feel like it has a beginning, middle and end for this episode, because it starts. I was surprised by just how quickly it jumped into that confrontation with John Walker. I was expecting that to be later in this episode, or even in the final episode, but they just get it out of the way, and then they take so much time, which I really appreciated, digging into these nicer, smaller character moments between Bucky and Sam, and Sam's sister Sarah, and I liked a lot of those details. And
Walker with his wife, Walker with the family of the Fallen.
yeah,
Yeah, there's
yeah,
a lot of
exactly.
those kind of moments.
Exactly. And so I appreciated that this episode took the time to slow down, because usually when you have the penultimate episode of a TV season, there's tons of setup for the finale. And while there is some setup for the finale at the very end of this episode, Marvel spent a lot of time just kind of casually doing character building and fleshing out arcs and doing stuff that was just nice little character moments. And I think that's what I appreciate the most about this episode.
Yeah, but at the same time, it feels like the training montage before the third act
Oh,
battle, right?
absolutely. Yeah, yeah. The training montage right there. Yeah, it's absolutely a Rocky kind of montage.
But I think it's fair to say that we both like it. It's just, you know, it's not the most solid episode of the series so far. Okay, let's get into the breakdown. So this episode starts as what you said. John Walker is in the middle of a breakdown when Sam and Bucky try to convince him to surrender, and this results in this 2-on-1 fight. It's very hard hitting. Walker yelling, "Why are you making me do this?" It becomes this battle over the shield between Sam and John, and John ends up ripping Falcon's wings off using his super strength, which is something I wasn't expecting to happen. um my first thought when I was watching this, Brad, was who is going to fix this? Stark isn't around anymore. Maybe we get the answer to this later in the show. What do you think?
Oh yeah, we absolutely get the answer to this later in the show. But yeah, I thought that was a cool moment for sure, of just having Walker be completely unhinged and just absolutely going for the jugular with both Bucky and Sam. From ripping the rings off to him getting ready to kill Sam with the shield, and just the way he was fighting was desperate and crazy, and he's clearly lost it.
Yeah, for sure. Sam uses the red wing on his back to give him the leverage to rip the shield away from Walker. They all get laid out, and Bucky picks up the shield, a shield that was never offered to him by Steve, before throwing it down on the ground next to Sam and walking away. It was kind of a good moment. I like that moment.
Yeah.
We learned that the GRC has been raiding these camps, but can't find Carly, and the new Captain America killing in public has become an international incident that is taking the fight out of the hands of Bucky and Sam. Torres looks at Falcon's ripped. What would you call torn off wing? It's not decapitated because that's like a head. I don't even know what you'd say, what the word is for that, but ripped off wings, and he doesn't know how to fix them. Sam leaves with the shield and tells him to keep the wings. My first thought here is Torres in the comics actually becomes Falcon when Sam becomes Captain America.
Yeah, I think that's a nice little moment there. Whether it's something that actually comes to fruition, is
Yeah.
remains to be seen. But I think that's a cool little touch there if that's what they're leaning towards.
Yeah, do you think we'll actually see in the last episode of this season, the series, Torres with the wings?
I don't know about that. If anything, I feel like maybe that's something they'll save. I feel like that this is a show where I think that they'll probably need to do a second season. I feel like that they're planning on doing a second season, and I think that if anything, they'll bring him back in as Falcon next season after Sam has presumably taken up the mantle of Captain
Yeah.
America.
Yeah, second season will be called Captain America and the Winter Soldier, and then the third season will be called Captain America and the Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Yeah.
Probably not. But, okay. John Walker has been stripped of his title, and he isn't being court-martialed because of his past service. He's given a less than honorable discharge, and Walker's not happy about this decision. I'm surprised he's not being like tried for murder. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I don't know. He's maybe there's something to be said about white privilege there. Walker has a heart-to-heart with his wife, who offers some advice as to where he should go next. But she seems well-meaning. I don't know what she has only had 2 appearances on the show so far. I think the first episode and this, but I feel like she's sending him the wrong direction. I mean, we find out later in this episode that he was definitely the wrong direction. But the next scene is where we get the big appearance. This is something that has been hyped up by Malcolm Spellman, the showrunner of this series. He said that a big Marvel character would appear in episode 5 of this series, that he would like to see this character in a movie with the Hulk or something. I don't
I
know.
think it was Thor, wasn't it?
Or was it Thor? I don't remember. But I think that led many fans to believe that this was going to be like some big name comic person. Last week on this podcast, I said not to expect that. So I hope I managed your expectations good. But I also did some hyping of my own. I said that it was an award-winning actor, and it is an award-winning actor. She has won Emmys, more than one Emmy. I think
Yeah.
she's at least won one
Yeah,
Emmy.
multiple Emmys.
Yeah, she's for her, she's was a star of Veep. She was in Seinfeld, and we're of course talking about Julia Louise Dreyfus, and she's playing Valentina Allegra de Fontaine. Long name,
Contessa Valentina.
Contessa. Okay, I don't know. Okay, long name, whatever. We're gonna call her Valentina. Is basically what we're gonna call her. What did you think of her appearance in the show?
I mean, it's a nice tease for, I assume, what's going to be a bigger part, whether it's just in this series or in the Marvel Cinematic Universe overall. She's kind of given a Nick Fury esque entrance in the same way that Samuel Jackson appeared in the credit scene of Iron Man, coming to recruit John Walker for something, presumably something nefarious. I can't imagine that this is a good guy character. Valentina's history in Marvel Comics is one that is tied to Nick Fury and Shield. She had a romance with Nick Fury. She worked for Shield for a long time. She has there's an arc involving the character in Secret Invasion where she's taken over by a Skrull and betrays Nick Fury. Then there's also a comics book storyline where she is revealed to be a Russian operative who has infiltrated Shield. She's part of another group called Leviathan, and she betrays Nick Fury there as well. And so, one of the things we learned today after she appeared in this episode is that this character was apparently meant to appear in Black Widow in another, I assume, cameo appearance. But since the timeline got messed up because of COVID, we didn't get to see her there first, and we're not actually sure if we'll still see her in Black Widow or not. I'm not sure if they're gonna still have her in that movie or if that scene was intended to be her introduction, and now that they've introduced her here, they don't need to have her in Black Widow. But it could be interesting if they use some of her Marvel history to inform what happens in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, because since one of her arcs had her as a former or as a Russian operative, maybe she's one of several, people who were alongside Natasha Romanoff being trained as an assassin. Maybe she has a history with Natasha and her makeshift family that we'll see in Black Widow. I think whatever role she has, it's safe to say that she'll have a bigger part in what's to come in the MCU. And yeah, I don't know, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, it definitely seems like too big of a role to just be in, the final 2 episodes of the season. But and you mentioned the Black Widow thing that came from a Vanity Fair piece, I think. Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, and I think they did not confirm it. They kind of speculated or said it was a rumor. I've heard conflicting things. I've heard that yes, she's in it. I've also heard that no, she isn't in it. So it's also possible what you said, that originally Black Widow was supposed to come out before Falcon and Winter Soldier. So maybe there was an introduction in there that now is cut. So who knows? Basically what I'm saying. But it her appearance doesn't seem like one of those things that non-hardcore Marvel fans would even pick up on in terms of like who she's playing. Like it's not a character that like passive Marvel fans would recognize. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. She's a pretty deep cut.
Yeah. And she also has a history with Hydra, right? Like she had, one of her roles was she was like Madam Hydra or something. She started her career at Shield and flipped to Hydra. Or,
Yeah,
some of my research brought me to that.
yes, that's true. And she's overseen various terrorist organizations. Apparently, at some point, she was in control of Madripoor, which is also another interesting link to this series. There's also the possibility. I wonder if she could very well be the power broker, if that's a thing.
Mm.
But who knows?
I bring up the Hydra thing because we have Zemo in this series. We've mentioned Hydra. Obviously, Winter Soldier is Bucky is trying to get over his past with Hydra and stuff like that. So, do you think that Hydra is rising again? Could it be possible?
Uh, I don't know. um, if anything, I feel like maybe there could be the introduction of a different, secret organization. There's plenty of them to pick from Marvel Comics history. There was also something interesting in that Vanity Fair article on it. I don't know if this is like a theory from fans that has been surfacing, or if there's rumors about this out there that Marvel might secretly be trying to put together an assembly of Thunderbolts, and Thunderbolts is a superhero team that is comprised of mostly reformed supervillains. They rise in fame after the Avengers are believed to be dead in a comic run in the '90s, and then Baron Zemo actually reveals that they're the masters of evil in disguise, and it like jeopardizes their appearance as superheroes. And then he was effectively their leader, and so then they turn against him in an effort to live up to this new image that they have of being superheroes. But considering the path that John Walker is on and how nefarious it seems like Valentina is in the scene that she appears in, I don't think she's assembling a team of villains to do some good like a Marvel version of Suicide Squad. I think that it's more likely that she's trying to assemble a team of just villainous people who can probably help her in some way.
Yeah, and it looks like she wants something with Walker because she tells Walker that she would have killed him too, and uh, she knows that Walker took the serum and says that he's valuable to certain people. What certain people? I guess maybe the power broker. What other certain people?
I mean, that's the thing is maybe it could be anybody depending on exactly what she's doing.
Yeah. She tells him not to worry about the shield because the government wanted him to return the shield and he doesn't have it because it doesn't really belong to the government anyways, and gives him a business card. This is a business card that's like half white and half black. I mentioned the colors because there's definitely delving into some racism and stuff, racial politics and stuff like that, social politics in this show. Does what and it doesn't say a name on it. It's a business card without a name, address, or phone number. So what is the deal with this card, Brad?
Part of me wonders if it was just like a little bit of a gag of like she handed this to Walker's wife to kind of keep her occupied and like here like this as like pretending like this will explain who she is when she asks that
Uh,
question, and then there's actually nothing that's on it. So I don't know.
I don't know. I feel like it's gonna come back. I feel like it's gonna be one of those. Remember when you were a kid and you learned how to make a secret note using like lemon juice, and
Yeah.
then like you'd put it on like under heat, and then like the ink would show up. Maybe something like that. I don't know. Or maybe it's a tracker. Maybe it's a way for her to track. I don't know. Maybe it is just a joke. Maybe you're right. Maybe it's just a joke. But okay, let's move on from that. Carly returns to one of the raided camps with her crew. She's very upset. She doesn't believe they will stop unless uh, the the flag smashers make them, and it's time to do that. She says. Bucky finds Zemo at the Sokovian memorial that Zemo mentioned in episode 3. Brad, you fought me on this. You
Yeah,
said that it was not.
let me take the role of Peter Sciretta in this episode and be like, I was wrong. I was wrong.
So did Zemo want Bucky to meet him there? Because it seems like there's no reason for him to be there and have mentioned it earlier, other than for it to be a meeting point, right?
Yeah, and at the same, I mean, and I don't know. This scene was interesting to me because I like the level of respect and acknowledgement of each other's desires and place in the world in the aftermath of what happened in Winter Soldier and Civil War. But it seems weird for Zemo to like, I don't know, willingly be taken into custody like this. If like he went there, he knew Bucky would meet him there, kind of thing, and maybe it was just like one final test to see if Bucky, you know, had really shed like that vicious side of the Winter Soldier, and and Bucky seemed to know that as well by tricking him into thinking that he was going to shoot him, and then having the gun not have any bullets in it whatsoever. Um, and so in one way, I think it's an interesting one last confrontation of these two minds. But then we go back to this thing of how leaving a character alive, like especially a character like Zemo, and having him taken into custody by Wakanda and to be imprisoned on the raft. I can't imagine this is the last we'll see of Zemo.
Yeah, and you mentioned the raft. That's where he's going. This is a underwater prison we saw in Captain America Civil War, and it was overseen by General Ross, who you mentioned earlier. I didn't tell you to mention him earlier, but great setup there.
I actually think
Uh,
you were the one who mentioned him earlier.
oh, I thought you mentioned him with Okay, maybe I did. I don't remember. Okay. Anyways, in Civil War, Falcon, Scarlet Witch, Hawkeye, and Ant-Man were captured by Iron Man's team and placed there, and later rescued by Captain America. Um, so this is a place where they keep super powered individuals. And the reason why I wanted to emphasize Ross is because a lot of Marvel fans and insiders seem to believe that Marvel is heading towards the Thunderbolts. Like this is a team started by Ross, and he recruits Zemo to be part of this team. So if Zemo is in the raft, which is overseen by General Ross, then maybe we're headed there. Are we headed there?
I mean, it's certainly not out of the realm of possibility. I mean, I I'm not sure. The only hesitation is that most of the characters who are in Thunderbolts are characters we haven't seen in the Marvel Cinematic Universe so far, and I'm not sure
Yeah.
that there are many characters in the Marvel Cinematic Universe to form that kind of team. Um,
Well, I think this is a long setup. Do you know what I mean? This isn't something we're going to see soon.
yeah, I mean, maybe I guess, and I if that's the goal, then maybe we'll start seeing some more minor villains popping up in the TV shows that are coming up from Marvel Studios on Disney Plus, like Hawkeye and She-Hulk and Miss Marvel and all that. So I mean, there's because the other long setup that people are talking about is Young Avengers. So maybe we're leading up to some kind of
Yeah.
small TV mashup of Young Avengers versus Thunderbolts. Or
Yeah.
something like that. Who knows?
In the next scene, Sam goes to the home of Isaiah Bradley. We see his son again, which I still think is a setup for Young Avengers or something. Anyways, not gonna die on that sword. And we learn more about Isaiah's backstory, the experiments that were done on him in the military, uh, how he saved his squadron from being murdered in a government cover up, and how the government kept him from his wife and experimented on him for over 30 years, trying to figure out why the serum worked on him and him alone, aside from uh, Steve Rogers. This is I think this is the emotional scene that Spellman was talking about. He was saying that this was the episode that he was most proud of, that this is the episode that would get people to cry. I do feel for Isaiah Bradley.
It didn't hit me in a way where it made me cry, but
Yeah.
I definitely recognize the emotion, the resonance here as far as how emotional this scene is, and I think that because I think that this scene will hit infinitely
Yeah.
harder.
We were also two white guys.
Exactly, and so like I think the scene hits infinitely harder for people of color, especially Black people. For me, I think the most powerful part of this scene is Isaiah Bradley talking about what Captain America stands for in his eyes. And it's not that Captain America is that Steve Rogers was actually stood for this, but Captain America has been seen as a symbol, much like the shield has,
Yeah.
and that symbol is a white, blonde, blue-eyed, character who is like the epitome of superheroism, and that has come to represent the wrong thing to some people, much in the same way that there are a lot of things in today's society that represents what is history and good and that kind of thing, and especially when it comes to white history and whatnot. And so when he says things like that, he's like that there will never be a Black Captain America, and anyone who takes up the shield would any
No self-respecting black man would ever want to be.
Yeah, exactly. Because in his eyes, Captain America, unfortunately, represents something much worse to him, and there clearly this connection between Captain America and the Shield and the American flag. Because even
Yeah.
though the American flag means a lot to a lot of people, it also stands for a lot of heinous things because of the things that America has done to certain people throughout its history. And so it's not to make, I guess, a more topical comparison, but it's why someone like Colin Kaepernick kneels during the national anthem,
Yeah. No, totally.
because it represents much more than the positive things that people like to think it stands for.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. And he says that he doesn't believe times are different. No, duh. I mean, the new Captain America just killed someone in the middle of the square. But
And he didn't
so
go to
yeah,
jail for it.
yeah, and he didn't go to jail for it because he's a white guy working for the United States. But Sam encourages him to tell his story, but he doesn't want to because a nurse took pity on him, wrote up some reports declaring him dead, allowing him to escape, and he just wants people to he wants to stay dead. He doesn't believe that telling his story will do anything. And I get what the scene is supposed to mean in terms of Sam, from his emotional arc of his hero's journey of him, you know, at the beginning of this series giving away the shield, and now he's considering if it's time for him to accept the gift, accept the title that Steve gave to him and take up the shield. I don't know. It's a tough, like, I mean, what do you think he must be going through when being told by this guy that was, tortured for 30 years, experimented on for 30 years, saying that no self-respecting black man would ever want to take up the shield. It, like, literally that's what he's thinking about in that moment.
Yeah, it's meant to create this complex feeling, in him as a character, and I think that really what will become Sam's driving force when he inevitably takes up the mantle as Captain America is that he will want to change what Captain America stands for and what he represents, because
Yeah.
as much as he does stand for good and that Steve Rogers made Captain America someone to believe in, there's still a lot of that symbol that has darkness behind it, and I think that he will want to change that.
Yeah. Uh Also, okay, so Sam leaves with the quote white man shield and goes goes home to Sarah. Instead of becoming the next Captain America, he's helping with his nephews fix the parents' old fishing boat. And Sam calls in some favors from the people of the community that owe his parents from things over the years, and everyone wants to help. I don't know why he didn't have this epiphany earlier, but there we go. Uh, what I guess what is the message here? Was he too? Did he not want to ask for help earlier? I mean, that's not the message because they went to ask for a loan. Did he not think that people would be willing to help because of his parents?
Um, I think it's more so just about this idea of him coming to rely on his community rather than relying on the government. Whether that's the intention or not, I think that's something that is probably a good visual to have in a series like this, because at the end of the day, the 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 themes of racism and government overlooking and oppressing people of color and things like that are prominent here. And because those things do happen in the real world, it's people coming together and helping each other that really, gets the job done, rather than relying on, a system that doesn't care about you.
Yeah. Bucky drops off a package from the Wakandans and offers for help. He meets Sarah. They share kind of a flirty moment. Do you think we're going to see a romance here between them?
I don't know if it'll be really prominent, but I like the little, aside where it creates another bit of playful tension between Sam and Bucky.
Yeah. Has Bucky already forgotten his girlfriend from the first episode? What the heck? Um, so they do this fixing the boat montage. This episode has a couple montages, at least 3. Sam invites Bucky to stay there, but tells him not to flirt with his sister. John Walker visits Battlestar's parents and explains that he killed that man to get justice for their son. And their reaction to me confirms that in the show to John Walker confirms that he is the hero that he thinks he is, and he must be in the story. I think so. I think this was like the wrong road to go down. Walker walks past a cap his back propaganda poster posted on the outside of a building. We cut to Sharon, who offers someone on the phone money, double this time, to do a job. She says if it wasn't for her, he would be rotting in the Algerian prison. Now, uh, do you know who that is, Brad?
Well,
From the
my
other end of the phone?
I have a guess.
And who do you think?
Well, if I think that this is correct. Isn't um Batroc
Y- yes, you are
Algerian?
correct.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so in the subtitles it actually says that it's Batroc.
See, the
So
subtitles are always revealing things.
yeah, so it confirms that that's who she's talking about, is the guy that we see later in this episode. Um, and it also seemingly confirms that she was the one that paid him to kidnap the soldier in the first episode, maybe. But it doesn't quite confirm that she's the power broker, I think. So, what do you think she's up to? Paying Batroc to? Well, okay, that's we'll get to that question later. We're gonna get, like, if she's paying Batroc, we. Yeah, let's get to that later. I'm not going to discuss that now. We'll get to the point. Okay, so Sam and Bucky practice throwing the shield around, which gives Bucky an opportunity to apologize to Sam. He says the shield was the closest thing he had to left of to family. And when he retired it made him feel empty. Sam says if Bucky needs to stop looking for other people to tell him who he is, and Bucky is still having the nightmares, thinks it means part of the Winter Soldier is still in him. Sam says that he wasn't amending, he was avenging, and he needs to give these people closure. Which I'm guessing that the next episode we're gonna see him finally make right with Mr. Was it Nakajima? I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, from the first episode. But it's a good heart to heart. Like you said, this episode has a lot of good like heart to heart conversations. Sam walks away holding the shield, and I'm not sure about you, Brad, but for the first time, I think we finally see he has it in him to be Captain America. And it's not that if we didn't, think that a black man couldn't be Captain America, we didn't think that he was capable of being black Captain America. It's just that like now I see the confidence that he believes he can be Captain America, and when he does that walk and that like strut, like you could feel he's going to be Captain America.
Yeah, he's got new determination in him,
Yeah.
to take up that mantle the right way.
Yeah. Sam and Sarah have a sweet brother sister conversation. She's proud of him for taking on the fight out there, but also the fight at home. Sam has this whole training montage. He's doing these like gymnastic moves in between boomerang throws. It's stuff that it's his own variation of the Captain America fighting. What do you think of that?
It was a good montage. It was cool. It did make me wonder what would happen to him though if he just like missed the shield ever so slightly. If he would decapitate himself, maybe, because like
Yeah.
there's obviously plenty of times where he misses and ducks and gets out of the way just in time. But like that could be super dangerous.
Yeah. Well, you know what? The purpose of a montage is to get you pumped, and I think this got me pumped, so I think it succeeded in that respect. Carly got some help to even out the odds, as she says it, in the form of Batrock. Sam screwed him out of a fortune, and he wants to get payback. Batrock delivers a case of high-tech weapons and explosions. And by the way, I have confirmed that it's high-tech weapons and explosions with the
Audio descriptions.
audio description. Yeah. So if you were wondering what that was and it's not confirmed, that's what it is. So, okay, let's get to the conversation I wanted to have earlier. I still believe that Sharon might be the power broker at this point, but I wanted to ask you this, Brad. Why, if Sharon is the power broker, why did she employ Batrock to do this? And why wouldn't Batrock just show up and kill Carly? Because as we know, in this whole season, it seems like Power Broker's been hunting Carly
Yeah,
and her crew.
that,
Like, and she even said in like one of the last episodes, like, I'll kill you if you don't give me the serum.
yeah. That's why I don't think she's the power broker, because it would be too easy to just dispatch with her right then and there. I She's obviously has something else in store, and I think that the reason she's using someone like Batroc is because it's a player that she can control. It's someone that she knows will have a dog in this fight because they want to take out Sam. But I think that she has other plans as far as like what's going to happen there once that like confrontation finally takes place.
Yeah. So, so what do you think Sharon wants with Batroc? Does she want him to kill Falcon? I mean, that's what it seems like.
I don't think so, because I mean I'm not sure how that benefits her.
Hmm.
Because that seems a little too, I don't know, dark for her, because I don't think she has anything against Falcon unless she's secretly super pissed off that she has been forced to go rogue because she teamed up with Captain Falcon in Civil War.
Well, if you think about that, really, like they were kind of, you know, what is that? Whitelisted. They were, even Winter Soldier, like, they were all like, they're now working for the United States and they're in the good graces of the United States, and she's like on the run still.
Sure,
So
sure,
maybe,
but again, she had the opportunity to take them out in Madripoor several
yeah,
times, and she didn't. And plus, Sam has promised to help her get her back in the U.S. and clear her name. So I imagine there's something else going on, and whatever it is will likely be something that will lead us into a second season of the show.
yeah. The other thing that really I'm conflicted about with her being the power broker is she ended up killing that doctor, and that doctor was working for her. So why did she end up
Well,
leading to the death of that?
she. I mean, sure, she might not have intended that because it was
Yeah.
Zemo who killed the doctor. So
Well, she was also killing people that were like in pursuit. Weren't those her own people, or
no, 'cause
like?
those are just assassins that are on Madripoor who
Uh,
are trying to carry out the bounty that was put out there.
hmm. Okay, good point. Good point. Okay. Um, let's move on. Carly's second in command is not happy about working with a criminal. Carly activates the Flag Smashers People Army via this app and declares that tonight they will go to battle. And we pull back to reveal that they are in a park in New York City, and this is where they're having a big vote about to happen for the big GRC pitch act that we heard about last week. This is an act that will move tons of refugees back to the country of their origins, kicking them out of the United States. Um, and then Sam gets alerted that that's happening, and power goes out at the GRC meeting. What do you make of this GRC meeting? I can't really understand. Like, they seem like they're not good people.
I mean, they just seem like a government body trying to get things done, whether it's like the UN or Congress or whatever, and
But
probably
the way they're talking about it is if it feels like not in the I guess that's maybe politics in
yeah,
general. That
exactly.
doesn't seem like it's in the benefit of people. It's like, how can we make this message so people how can we sell this message? Not like how can we help people?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Who do you think do you think that they were responsible for the power going out?
The Flag Smashers?
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. That's because
Yeah.
I mean, there's one of the people who comes in. He's the one who like relieves the security guard that's there just before it happens. Is one of the people that you can see in the park crowd.
Oh,
And so
I missed that.
yeah, so it's clearly them taking that over, and I assume they will be holding them for ransom or something like that.
Yeah. So Sam opens the Wakandan case. This is a case that Bucky asked. If you saw at the end of that scene with Zemo, he asked them for a favor. He had one favor to ask, and I'm guessing this case is that favor. And we see Sam's look as he sees what's inside the case. We don't get to see it, and we cut to black. Now, you seem to think that in the case is the wings. It's new wings, right?
Yeah, I would imagine that they are wings, a wingsuit that is now made of vibranium.
Ooh, I didn't even think about that. That makes sense because they have so much vibranium in Wakanda, and that would, yeah. I mean, that in Cap's shield is made out of vibranium. We see Falcon in the series using his wings as a shield. So yeah, this seems like a
And aside
you know
from the wingsuit, I wouldn't be surprised if it's also an entirely new suit for him to wear in general.
yeah. And one thing I didn't notice in my first view around, but you alerted me that there was a mid credit scene, and I actually did like fast forward to the credits, and I totally missed this. Maybe it just looked like it was part of the credits. So there's this scene where John Walker is almost Iron Man style, like building and welding together something that's revealed to be his own shield, and he incorporates his medals of honor into it, and he's painting it. I mean, it looks so much like Captain America's shield. I'm sure that he's going to become a U.S. agent, but why does it look so much like Captain America's shield?
Well,
Why wouldn't it be his own identity?
well, because he still thinks he's Captain America. He said it twice in this
Yeah,
episode.
yeah, you're right. Okay, that is the end of the episode. Do you have anything else to say about this episode before we get into speculation?
Not to do that thing where we start talking about stuff that is just theorizing and probably isn't going to happen and connects to the rest of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But I did find myself wondering.
Hey, that stuff can be fun as long as you do not count on it.
True.
You do not base your enjoyment on the future of the series based on the theory.
Yeah, I wondered, since the this thing with the GRC and the Flag Smashers is happening in New York, if there will be any sort of reference as to what Spider-Man is doing, like, or like why Spider-Man isn't there, or if we'll get an explanation later as to why Spider-Man didn't hear about this, or even Doctor Strange, who also is in New York. So yeah, I'm curious if there'll be any mention as to, like, why any other New York local superheroes didn't get involved, in this skirmish.
I don't know the timeline of these things. Too
Yeah,
bad we don't have Sean on here. But maybe Peter Parker was overseas during
or in another dimension.
or in another dimension. Yeah. Okay, let's get to speculation. I'm not, actually to answer you, Brad. I don't think they really. Do you really think they need to explain this? I feel like
No, I don't think it's something they need to explain. But I mean, it's something I'm sure some people will wonder,
yeah,
because I mean, New York is famously Spider-Man's home, and as is where Doctor Strange's sanctum is located.
yeah.
So
But he could be in another. I don't know. He could be busy with something else. This doesn't seem like an Avengers level situation at this point. If this was a thing where like aliens came out of the sky like they did in the events of the Battle of New York in Avengers 1, then I would be like, okay, we're Spider-Man. Do you know what I mean?
sure.
But I feel like this might be you don't need to explain it. It's not, or at least this point. At this point, we don't know where this is going to escalate to, but at this point, it doesn't seem like he needs to be there.
Maybe.
Yeah. Okay. Let's go into speculation. I guess you've read into Valentina more than I have because you wrote up an article on the site about her. What role do you think she's going to have in the last episode?
I mean, like I said, I think it would make sense if she's the one who turned out to be the power broker. Um, I I also feel like I'm not sure if she will have a big role in the next episode unless it's just to set up for something to happen next, whatever larger plan she's trying to pull off. But yeah, I think it partially depends on what happens with John Walker since she was so interested in him. If anything, maybe we'll get a thing at the end where she, calls upon John Walker. I don't know. I mean, it's the Thunderbolts thing is it's becoming more of like a prominent thing down in my head because now I'm thinking about, okay, yeah, Zemo is in the raft, and where do you put someone like John Walker after you capture him if you don't kill him? Well, you have to put him in the raft because he's a super soldier. So yeah, I
Hmm.
don't know.
Yeah, it doesn't seem to me like she's a character that is just being set up for this one final episode. It seems to me like she would have a greater MCU role,
Yeah.
but I don't know. Like I said earlier, is Hydra back? What kind of role could she fill? I don't really know. If you out there have some theories, send it to me at peter@slashfilm.com. Uh, so yeah, I talked about let's what I guess yeah. What do you think is going to happen? We only have one episode left, which is crazy to me because this doesn't seem like I know exactly how it's going to play out. It's same thing happened with WandaVision. It ended up being very by the numbers. But what do you think is going to happen in the finale, Brad?
Gosh, I mean, specifically, I don't know. I think that Carly has to die
You
probably.
think she has to die because Zemo's arguing that they need to kill Carly, and Bucky's kind of like, no, that's not how this needs to. Like, it seems like this whole series is leading to the point of like that's for his arc. They need to not kill her.
But I don't think that she'll die at the hands of Falcon and Bucky.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that her character has to die, but I think that she will have some kind of redemption before she's ultimately killed, probably by somebody else. Um, as to who that is, I don't necessarily know. I think that I mean, there's obviously intentionally so much mystery surrounding what's going to happen at the end, and a lot of threads dangling with Sharon and uh, Valentina and all this stuff. So um, I really don't know. I'm not entirely sure where this is heading, and as far as like what kind of finale it gives us that will set us up beyond what it is we've already talked about.
Yeah. It's also interesting because I know the showrunner and some people involved have talked about how the season was changed after the pandemic because originally Carly and the Flag Smashers, we saw them, they took control of some chemical or some biological weapons. And I think that was going to play into the story more than it is in this final cut of the season. And, I'm thinking back and I'm wondering, like, I'm trying to piece together how everything would have went. Like, there was that mother figure that died. Like, maybe she didn't die because of what was it, some kind of illness? No, I guess it makes more sense for her to die because of the illness that was, something that was ravaging these camps. I don't know. Okay, I really have no no end to this train of thought, but I'm just curious what more was probably in Carly's storyline before this pandemic because it seems like they definitely changed some stuff. I Where do I see this finale going? I mean, obviously, U.S. Agent is going to, or uh, John Walker is going to have to be apprehended, or maybe is there any way he becomes a hero in this final episode?
Uh, Doubtful. That's not to say that
Doubtful.
that can't happen later, but I
Yeah,
don't think it's going to happen at the end of this episode. Or
yeah, yeah. I think you're right. And flag smashers have to be apprehended. I don't think we're gonna get an end to this GRC thing. I don't think there's a way to end it in this final episode. So I wonder how they're gonna follow up with that in later Marvel movies. But I guess we'll wait until next week to find out. Uh, do you think we will see Falcon become Captain America? I think we will.
Yeah, I think it's a foregone conclusion that by the end of this, he has to become Captain America. We'll see him in his new suit and everything, and that will be that.
Yeah. I think somewhere online someone was there was this like Twitter thread about the costumes of the show, and one of the observations was that John Walker's Captain America takes the white out of the costume, which white usually represents purity and all these other things. And I know that the Falcon version of of Captain America, his suit has a lot of white in it, so
Yeah.
I'm wondering if that's where we're headed to. Maybe these wings are white.
One
um
could argue that John Walker puts enough white into that Captain America costume that the suit doesn't even need it.
yeah, that's true. uh I guess we've talked a lot in this podcast about how this show is about Falcon becoming Captain America, but who does Bucky become?
I think that that's probably a question that can continue to be explored in another season. Or part of me actually thought that Bucky could get his own series, because I found it interesting that Zemo mentioned. Didn't he say that there were specifically like 12 names in there of people that like he that were still on his list? and
Yeah,
and with and
yeah.
with Sam saying that he needed to start making amends with people, I wonder if he could have his own series that where he did that, or maybe it'll just be part of another
It's
season.
the Amend series.
Yeah, just
uh
Bucky goes around, and each episode is him making amends with somebody.
I don't know. I mean, I definitely think we're going to see uh the guy from the first episode in the next episode, him making amends with him.
Yeah, absolutely.
um but who will he choose? Will he choose his daughter or Sam's sister? That's the question. Okay. Wyatt Russell was asked in an interview this last week. I forget what outlet, but he was asked if he had ever met Chris Evans, and he gave this whole answer about how I think he said that he had been in the same room with Chris Evans. He doesn't think he shook hands with them. It made it sound like it was like an old premiere, but then at the end of his answer, he said something like, because the question was like, "Will we see that in the series? You and Chris Evans on the screen?" And the end of his answer, he ended it with like, "You'll have to wait to see by the end of the series," or something like that. And a lot of outlets are running with this, and they're like, Wyatt Russell is teasing that Chris Evans is going to be in the Falcon and Winter Soldier, the finale of it. And I want to tell everybody, don't get your hopes up. As someone who's had knowledge about things in the show, I don't think that's going to happen. I'm not spoiling anything, not whatever, but I do think these Disney guys or these Marvel guys are told by Disney, you know, to not answer. Like you're never supposed to spoil anything. So I think Wyatt is just going on that
Yeah,
line
yeah. I
of
think
like,
it's just a general. You'll just have to wait and see what happens, kind of thing, and
yeah.
like regardless of what question led into it.
It's just unfortunate because I feel like these actors are put in these bad situations with. I mean, who asked that question? Like, I would never ask that question. Like, are we going to see you in Captain America on screen in the series? Like, I don't know. And do you really expect him to answer that question? And you're putting an actor in a bad situation, and they have to kind of scramble in their mind. And I'm not saying Wyatt Russell is a great actor. I'm not saying he seems like a very smart guy. I don't think he understood the implications of him saying that and how fans were going to run with it. But that's the world we live in. So what do you think? Do you think we're going to see Chris Evans in the finale?
I mean, we had that conversation about like Wasn't there some kind of like secret thing that was filmed?
Yeah, and apparently that was
Yeah, I assume.
Julia Louise
Yeah,
Dreyfus.
that's what I assumed. So if that were the opportunity where it would have happened, and so knowing that, I don't think that there's an opportunity for it, and I feel like if they would have brought Steve Rogers back to have like one more heart to heart with Sam, it would have underscored the last meeting they had at the end of Avengers Endgame. Like there's not really anything more that Steve Rogers can say that would be any more impactful than him leaving Sam the shield and saying, and telling him that, you know, it it belongs to him now, essentially. So I feel like we just you just don't need that, like
Yeah.
it's this has to be, Sam and Bucky's story, and you don't want to underscore that by bringing Steve Rogers back.
But even if he did show up, why would he show up in a scene with Wyatt Russell and not a scene
Yeah, exactly. He wouldn't.
with
Yeah,
yeah. So, okay. Do you have any other speculation about, because this is the last time we talk before the finale of the season, the series hits next week. Do you have anything else to say, Brad?
I don't. No, we've pretty much covered it, and I'm interested to see how this one comes to a close, and then even more excited to begin our breakdowns when Loki comes around.
Oh yeah, Loki looks so good. And it looks so different than this. I don't know. I'm liking how Marvel is making these things that don't seem so into the Marvel. I mean, this one, it does fit the Marvel kind of movie formula a little bit more. But this compared to WandaVision, compared to Loki, it just feels so different. They feel so different from each other. So, okay. You can find more of all of our work at slashfilm.com. You can find this podcast on Apple, Google, Overcast, Spotify, all the popular podcast apps. Please feel free to send your feedback, questions, comments, concerns to us at peter@slashfilm.com. And please, if you like these episodes, if you like this podcast, please head over to our Apple podcast page. There's a link in the show notes, and write us like a sentence telling us what you like, what you love. Give us 5 stars. That helps more people find this podcast. Thanks to everybody for spreading the word. We'll see you on Monday.